Good morning, everyone. It's Kitty Crysdale here from Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. Happy Thursday, and thanks so much for joining me. I'm really excited today to be chatting with an aquatic professional that I have been following on Instagram for a number of months now. And I feel that it's really important that we understand that there is always different perspectives to aquatics, different ways that people come to the water, different ways that people love being in and around the water. And my lived experience is not necessarily the same as someone else's. And so anytime I share my own opinion or my own experience, you have to take that with a grain of salt. I just have my own perspective. So I'm really excited this morning to be bringing on someone who has a different lived experience than I do and who has a different background in swimming. And I think it's really important that we understand where other aquatic professionals are working in the space and the challenges and even discrimination that they're sometimes facing because of how they use the pool. And so I'm really excited today. I'm going to bring on Ola shortly. She is someone I've been following on Instagram for a number of months. I've also seen her very active in different Facebook groups for aquatic professionals and really being an advocate for what she needs in the water and what her clients need in the water. And I'm going to let her explain what that is and the challenges that she's been facing. But it's been really interesting to me to watch, unfortunately, some of the small-mindedness or the different perspectives that lifeguards or aquatic facility managers have, where if something is different from what they are used to, and typically in aquatics we talk about people in shorts and spaghetti straps and skimpy bathing suits, that makes some people uncomfortable if somebody is different. And that shouldn't be the case. We really need to broaden our horizons and understand that what I want or what I prefer is not what someone else prefers. So I'm going to bring on Ola and we're going to have a conversation about her lived experiences and ways that we can be better in the industry.
Oh my gosh.
Good morning.
How are you? Oh my gosh, my head. There we go. How are you?
I am so well. I'm so glad this worked out. As I said, I've been following your account for so long. So introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you love aquatics?
Sure. So my name is Ola, and I'm a personal trainer and a swim instructor and a podcast host, Purposeful Fitness with Coach Ola. I'm currently teaching swimming at various locations, water aerobics as well, and I'm taking a break from the whole personal training, fitness, like land training stuff.
But basically, you do it all. You're your typical aquatics person. You love being active, I'm guessing. You love seeing people get healthy. How did you end up in this kind of work?
Yeah, so it started in 2018 when I applied to at a local swim school for kids. It's a family owned. I've networked with the family people before. We went on a coffee just to know each other. Then they told me to apply. I sent them my resume. So it's the whole process. And during the training of the job, I was essentially bullied by one of the employees. Pulled on the side, was asked like, you can't teach swimming because of what you wear, and like how many else have you swam because of what you wear, and it's just downplaying me. So obviously I did report and I did document it, and then I actually called the center that she referenced to that wouldn't hire me because of what I wear, something like this. And then that was in 2018. So in the spring of 2019, I applied for Red Cross at my George Mason University. It was really hard to become certified. I became certified in like fall of 2019 essentially. Then I started teaching until COVID time. So from like 2019 till COVID. And then when COVID happened, when the pools were closed, that's when I launched the social media campaign, Swim for Akhira. And I actually like paid for someone to do this logo for me. And then like right here as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
to
Awesome.
just to represent that we actually also want to be heard. And like my story is the same as other people as well. So that's
Well, and that's really why I wanted to chat with you today. I'm very lucky. I've lived in the Middle East. I've studied a lot of different religions and cultures, and I mean, for me, it's completely normal that you would wear hijab. But could you explain to people who maybe don't understand why it's important to you to wear hijab even in the pool?
yes. And I know like we connected, especially on that one video I shared, and I have an example of that headscarf. And thank you for calling hijab. So it's important to me because it's a choice that you have to make. I know there's a lot of misconception. There's a lot of people who are either are forced to wear it when they were young, or they choose themselves to wear it, and that's so it's a choice. So I chose to wear it, and then obviously when I did wear it, it was difficult to be back in the water. So when I took my swimming class, right before I wore it, it was completely easy. I still had to cover, but then after I wore it, it was a challenge to transition from like, like that one piece to being told like that's too tight and what have you. So there are challenges around it.
Well, and to what Ola is saying, for those who are thinking about it, right, it's not just a hijab, it's also covering your arms or your legs, and there's very limited swimming options, I'm sure, for you. You've had a lot of challenges figuring out what to wear. What have you found to be successful in the pool? Is it tighter, looser? What kind of fabrics do you find work for you?
So there are challenges, but I think it's not limited. I think there are now so many options these days. And obviously we've seen Nike, and now we have Adidas, like a big brand taking creating products. So I think what has worked for me after, especially going through that experience at the job place, because I wasn't a professional swimmer, so I did not know the whole how to go to the restroom really fast and how to leave out of the restroom really fast. So before, like, they call it burkini, that one piece that women wear. I did not know it was a trademark word until like last year. So I call it modest swimwear. So I have an actual modest swimwear too from like different brands, or I make up my own one piece swimsuit like a speedo, or that's like a bra support, and then underneath it like leggings, swim leggings, and a rash guard, and if I can wear shorts, like a little skirt to make it modest. But like this week when I was swimming, I actually had to take out my shorts because it became a little bit heavy. In the early stages, I was wearing a cotton t-shirt, which is obviously very heavy. So that's why rash guards are amazing. It's not just like for the Muslim women, but like obviously people who have like rash skin issues or what have you, and I find them to be very helpful. Because like you have to keep in mind with the whole swimwear, you have to wash it right away. The chlorine kills the color, the material, and they're not cheap either.
Well, and I think you hit on a great point that I hope that lots of people consider. It's not just Muslims that have, they might be want to be covered. It might be people, as you said, with skin conditions, maybe somebody with sensitivities to skin cancer or post-operative surgical. Many different faiths or many different people have traditions where they would feel more comfortable being in the water with more coverage. And certainly a spaghetti strap doesn't leave a lot to the imagination for people. Like, I don't wear spaghetti straps out on the street. Why would I be comfortable wearing them in the pool, right? So I think people need to be aware that I lived in one community where one of the hijabi moms told me this. Actually, she would buy boys' jammer shorts for her girls and layer them with a women's suit and then put a rash guard on top. So that created good coverage for her kids, right? But can you talk a little bit about the clients you work with and what it's like for them to work with you, someone who looks like them or who understands their needs?
Yes, so at George Mason, I was able to attract Muslim women, and I'm still attracting them, of course. So I've noticed a lot of education needs to happen to educate them, like on goggles is very important. Like what to wear is also important. Even if someone doesn't wear the headscarf, they have like long hair. It's important to like tie it up and have it like up, which where we comes the speedo hat or the cap, which is important to educate that as well. And so I always have noticed, like there is anxiety, of course, there's a fear, but then there's also the struggle with, the technique, staying afloat, breathing, and what have you. So from there, it goes on.
And do you find that you are the first hijabi instructor that they found, or are there lots of people in your area who understand this, different client needs?
At George Mason, I'm the first one, and I'm not the only one in the community and stuff, like where I live. So there's a local Islamic school in where I live, and that's where this lady bullied me. She was like, "Oh, did you know there's a local? Like, are you local? There's a local, like location. It's Islamic. There's no windows no one can see. You can take off your headscarf." I'm like, "Why are you telling me this? Like, it doesn't matter to me." So at that Islamic school, obviously there is a certified swim coach. She's Egyptian. She's I think she's better than me in swimming, especially with knowledge and her skill sets, right? I still can't do the butterfly fully. And so in Maryland, like in the DMV area, I'm in the Virginia, but in the Maryland, there's also Turkish mosque, which has pool. And I found out there's also like few others, but I don't think they're that popular, like on social media and what have you, but there are people local.
Well, and I think what you said is important for people to understand. Just because there may be a private pool that is, it doesn't have any viewing windows so women can take off their hijab or they can wear different swimsuits, that doesn't mean that's the only option, in the sense that there are women who may choose to go to the George Mason pool, or they may choose to go to a hotel pool. And so it's very limiting for anybody to say, well, you shouldn't come here, you should go there. I mean, the customer has a choice. Where they want to swim is their decision, right? We should help them to be able to have options wherever they want to swim.
Exactly.
Can you tell?
Yeah, and like it's really
Please.
sorry, like it's said that I like to learn that it's in the Middle East they're banning people to swim with burkini or modest swimwear. It's really, really sad. And when I shared that on my own Facebook page, someone who lives in here, like local to me, she was in shock. So I think people are still in shock to find out like it's happening in the Middle East, not just like in the USA. Yeah.
Well, and it's very common, unfortunately. I'm reading the same articles that you are, whether it's in Europe or whether it's in the Middle East. I remember the first interaction I had with that was an influencer that I follow. She probably has about 600,000 followers now in Qatar, and she went on vacation with her husband to Egypt, and they wouldn't let her into this very exclusive resort that she would have shown to thousands of followers. And she posted about it, and of course immediately the resort is, oh my goodness, we're so sorry, we can't believe. And it just was so shocking to me, in a Muslim country like Egypt, but it's a resort that wants to have a very specific look on Instagram, or a very specific type of client, and that's not fair or equitable. So can you talk a little bit about your unfortunately some negative experiences you've had in your area, either as a swimmer or as just in general, and then we'll talk about how we can do better.
So the one story I mentioned was at a job location. The other story was at a George Mason when I was swimming. And the lady was asking me, oh, I forgot what she said, but like, aren't you hot in this, or isn't it like too much for you? And obviously it's rude, and like I was a bit offended. So I was like, no, it's not that much. And so the next time I saw her, like there's like that look that yeah, so that was the second story, but it hasn't happened like as very, very much, but these two are the ones that are like in my head when I mention them. Yeah.
So I know for myself, I teach the certified pool operator course, and probably once every couple months I get a question about, can people wear these modest swimsuits in the pool, because there is the misconception that it's related to a health regulation or it's a safety issue. Can you talk a little bit about the TikTok video and what you have found to be actually dangerous swimming with more coverage?
Yeah, so that actually happened to me at George Mason, and I mentioned in the caption as well. So that's why they created the bikinis or the modest swimwear with the fabric material for swimming, including the headscarf. And so at George Mason, like in person, when I had women come to the class, my water aerobics, it wasn't even swimming, just water aerobic. They were doing activities, and they're like fine in a way. But then the lifeguard at the very end, stopped them. He told, I think it was a guy, he was like, you shouldn't be wearing this, it's not good for you, or like not allowed. And they were a bit like upset and offended. And I had to explain to him, like, no, he's right, it's not good for you, it's not a safety hazard. So the TikTok video that I shared was a similar style that girls were wearing, which is essentially so oh, by the way, here's like a turban tie from Lyra Swimwear.
Okay.
That's like a swim but some people like me, for instance, they're not very comfortable showing their neck, so they choose not to wear this. They choose to wear like the one piece. And so the TikTok video had a person, or a young girl, teen woman, wearing the wrapped. This is like not the right way, but anyways, it was the wrapped version of this, right? Like it was all covered, but there's like this little side hanging down. That side hanging down the water, and like jumping in the water is not good for you because it's dangerous. It could essentially like wrap around you. It could come in your mouth. You can choke and drown. And that's what I was telling people, that this is a dangerous part, and it's not safety, and it's not safe.
Well, and I think for those people watching who might not have an awareness, there are different ways that you can cover your head. And there is the style, as Ola's just shown, with a scarf, where it's basically safety pins or magnets. It's kind of wizardry. And then there are the styles now being sold by Nike or many different brands that are actually stitched with a seam. So you pull it on over and it stays, I guess it stays together, like it stays in place most of the time, right? And so there's nothing to drag or get caught in the pool, is what you're saying.
Most of the time, as you say, so there's one brand, like Muslim owned, they have a one piece scarf as well, but it's very tight at the neck. I have two other brands that are also Muslim owned. They create it within, like we are in their mind, and the design is very nice. They stick. The Nike, like I had the Nike swim hijab, and it's actually a bit slippery. Loose, it's very nice, but it's a bit slippery in the water. Whereas like Asia Sport and Splash Gear is like head on, stays right there. The Lyra swimwear is where it's tight up here. It's nice, but it's tight up here, and it comes off a little bit. So what I recommend to people who are still like me, not comfortable and like showing their neck, what have you, like Asia and Splash Gear, they're both, they stick on your head, and then when anything happens, that's where the goggles come in. Lock it up. That's like my strategy of locking things up from here.
Well, and I'm almost wondering too, if instead of like some people wear an undercap on land, if in water, if you had a bathing cap underneath, the certain type that had, not as slippery, if that would help or provide some extra coverage. Like I would imagine you plan and you take some extra pieces of clothing in your swim bag. You don't just have, one headscarf and one outfit. You probably have some options that you can play around with depending on temperature. Or how does it vary with your training? Like if you're swimming laps versus aqua aerobics?
That actually happened to me before. Before COVID, I forgot like my complete like swim hijab, so I had to use my cotton hijab. This is called like the Amira. They call this Amira. So I had the similar one, but it was cotton material, and I was really mad. So I think what I did, I used the whole cotton thing, and last summer I also used the swim cap, as you mentioned, the Speedo swim cap. Locked it up on top of my Lyra hijab, but again, it's very tight up here. So that there's that option, but you have to keep in mind the neck. So if you're not comfortable here, you can't swim, you can't really breathe and be comfortable. So in the water aerobics, I sometimes wear the short version, the one piece, because it has a bra support. I need to be jumping. I need that help, and the rash guard, the pants and shorts. It looks sporty, looks a bit professional, and ready to swim if I have to, like jump in the water with them.
So let's talk a little bit about, you're working at George Mason Pool, a few other places. How do you educate the other lifeguards, especially like maybe the younger ones who haven't met a hijabi before, who haven't, this is new for them, or has their supervisor educated them? How do you get people to have a better awareness that this is okay in the pool, this could be acceptable, this should be normalized?
So at Mason, they have a rule, like what to wear, when to wear. They do mention not to wear a sports bra, and I still wear it, of course, because the majority of the Muslim-owned brands, they don't have bra support, and that's where Nike created that bra support. Very interesting. So what I tell them, obviously, a rash guard is a rash guard. It's created for the water, so they can't say no about it. But it comes to the pants and the shorts, and that's where the pants have to be like the legging material has to be a bit waterproof. Like if you wear cotton material, like, I agree with the lifeguard. It's not the best version. It's going to like dry out quickly. The color will fade, and it's just not going to help you in the water. So the material has to be like waterproof, like a spandex type. So it can be created for the water, or it can be like a spandex type, and that's safer in the water and it's easier to swim, in my opinion. So that's where the education comes in. Comes in like is it waterproof? Is it water safety material? Cons, like I agree, it's not the best to wear.
Well, and I think one of the things that I would certainly do in a situation like this on the pool deck, if I was lifeguarding and somebody came out with more coverage on them, whether it was clothing or a proper modest swimsuit, is I would have a conversation with them to assess their swim ability, because often in lifeguarding, we stereotype our customers walking in, we pigeonhole, you know, maybe the lady in a string bikini, she's not a serious swimmer, maybe the man with all the equipment is a serious swimmer. But often we need to have a conversation and figure out what that water competency is, and the depth of the water makes a really big difference. Because if somebody who's new to swimming, maybe she's taking private lessons with you, she's coming in to practice in the shallow end, and she's not ready, she doesn't have the money yet for an expensive modest swimsuit or all the pieces, so maybe she's wearing clothing for 1 or 2 more days. I mean, that can be acceptable if I'm aware as a lifeguard, right? But I think people are often uncomfortable approaching some customers that they might appear different from what they've seen before, and they really should have a conversation with the person.
Yeah, and last year I was told from another lady that like she was told by lifeguard that she wasn't allowed. Actually, no, it's actually sad. It happened. I spoke with someone this year, and it was a few years ago when the lifeguard told her she couldn't be in the water in the pool because of like her burkini. And this is like right when same thing before, and I had to explain to the other lady like I agree with lifeguard. I'm sorry, I don't like safety has to come first. So if it's not safe, I'm not going to be on your side. I'm going to be on like the lifeguard side because that has to be the priority. But if someone is just saying like completely no to a swimwear that's just more coverage, that's where the line, like the fine line comes in. Yeah. So if it's water material, just like a normal swimsuit, because if you, they don't sell it as much anymore, which is really sad. But my very, very first, and I was lucky, blessed, on clearance, the very first modest like dress swimwear was from Target, and it was a one piece. You know that one piece like swimwear that has a skirt that like a skirt attached to it. It's a similar thing. Just there's more coverage to the bikini in a way.
Well, and I think like you, I didn't know burkini was a trademark until very recently, and it unfortunately has created a lot of stigma, but it's a functional word. And I think it's hard because if you type in modest swimwear on Google, you're going to get a whole range of things. And it, sometimes, depending on what you're looking for, you're not going to find it right away, because modest to one person might not be modest to someone else. And then, like you said, does somebody want a skirt so there's coverage over the button legs, or do they want more of a like a tunic, right? Or, you know, like there's so many different options. And so it's unfortunate that stereotypes or even just like you said, in Europe, some of these bans are limiting a product that I genuinely feel that many women or people would be served by having access to. And right now, I find it hard to find these products. When you shop, do you have to go online? Are there any stores that carry what you need, or what's been your experience?
So I just created an affiliate link at Swim Outlet because Swim Outlet has modest wear category, and the very first 2 Muslim-owned brands added their brands, Splash Gear and Adidas, and then Nike's there too. But they labeled it underneath the modest category. So when I created my own swim store outlet, I also created the category modest. And what you said is like in my subconscious, okay, modest to me is not modest to you and what have you. But then I've talked about it in my campaign last year in a webinar, and also like a couple ones, where modest is not just for Muslim women. Like if you look at the Orthodox Jewish women, they have the same issues as us. They can't wear, they have to go up to their knees, and wear like a skirt and be modest. So they go through the same issues as we go. And so people need to understand, like, it's not just a woman problem, like a Muslim woman problem. It's a Orthodox Jewish Christian woman. And I've talked about it within the community. I talked about it in my Swim Pro in 2020, I believe, or 2019, when Nike came out, because I had like these strong opinions about Nike and like it's all about the money. And then this one guy mentioned, like, if we were to talk about like modest for the men, let's not talk about the Speedos, like one piece, and like, because if we were talking about Christian men, I mean, like, go back to the roots. Yeah. So and that's where I did the podcast, like my own podcast, and blog about it. And I tried to use the word, like, not keep it exclusive to Muslim women, and it's really challenging because I'm trying to like not just make it all about us, but be open about it, and it's really hard to keep it as an umbrella.
No, I completely agree with you. I lived in Jerusalem for 2 years, and the range of coverage that you see, the personality, the fashion, the style, the different cultural backgrounds of
anybody, right? Whether Christian, Muslim, or Jewish, right? There's a lot of people that want coverage, and I think it's very limiting for some of our brands, our companies, to think, well, it only fits this small population, so we're not going to manufacture it because nobody else wants it. I was at dinner last week with an elderly couple, and the woman, she wasn't as confident in her appearance, and she would be all over. She said, I was showing her the Nike Victory collection on my phone, and she was thrilled at the idea of a tunic and some pants that would be safe in the water, because she's also concerned about, as she gets older, how able she is to swim safely. So although she wants a more modest option, she's not going to wear cotton leggings because A, she's not into leggings, and B, she's concerned that she would be in a dangerous situation. But, you know, she doesn't fit the profile that some people have about modesty, right? And it's just very sad. And I'm like you said with Nike, I don't want to pick one particular brand, but they've been working really hard, it seems, to expand their understanding of what people want.
And now we have Adidas. Adidas just launched their own. They hired like one of the activists, Muslim women, to do their ad, their promo. So I'm waiting to see who's next, because that was part of their Speedo program and they closed it. And Speedo actually has a modest, like actual Muslim like cover from top to the bottom in Australia, but like nothing is here. And when they closed their, I was part of their advocacy program. So when they closed it, they're like, oh, you know, we're, if you want to become an ambassador. But I chose to not go that route because it's not something I'm interested in and stuff. But yeah. And then also I want to say, like, I have the Nike pants, and they have different like models of it. So they sent me one of their models, and it's very, very heavy pants. It's looser. So they have the tight version, they have the like looser version. The looser version has a lot of drag in the water. It's kind of heavy. And then the rash guard, here's the other piece that I've noticed teaching like women who wear like a rash guard, like a one piece burkini, what have you. Rash guards tends to like lift up in the water, right? When you swim, it's gonna like drag up. And if you have nothing underneath, only your skin is going to show up. And that has happened to me. It has happened to a few clients. But since I got swim box, it's more private. It's fine. So if you're going to be in a public area, just keep that in mind. And that's why I do wear like a one piece on top of a rash guard in case it climbs up. There's hiding. But then with the Speedo, it's open from the behind. So what I do, I tug the rash guard underneath my shorts.
That seems like something they should have tested, because even I would have told you, like any swim shirt, especially as it gets loose and stretched or it's a bigger size, it's going to lift. So you would think, or even, you know, a button or a way to hook it into some shorts would have made sense.
Yeah. I mean, the Nike's like top wear is so long and it's so nice. It has like a bra support type, but it literally like lifted up to, and it showed my skin. Like I was recording a video, and I'm like, okay, awkward, whatever, it's okay. Yeah.
Did Speedo give you a reason why they were closing their modest division or anything like that?
So I did not ask. I've been like tagging them on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, like social media, but I didn't like email them to ask like, oh, what happened. I'm a bit like nervous, what have you, but no reasons. I think it comes down like bottom line dollar. Like we're dollar signs, so I won't mention names, but you know, since I've been networking and stuff, I realized the dollar sign. Because I was asked like, how much sales have you made so far, and what you're doing. So to me, I can like it's crystal clear. That's what they care about. And I know another, like, you know, she's Black, she's local, she is not the typical thin woman. She's not average size either, so she's oversized. And then she was speaking to them, and then she said, and she was telling me all the questions that she's going through. And she's a woman, and she said it's like male dominated. They want to have their voice. We have so much like money to bring to the table. I don't like, they don't see it, they don't get it. Another Black woman told me the same thing with her experience with another brand. And it's a hard, you know, I'm still shy in my bubble, scared. Yeah. And I'm overwhelmed at the same time. Yeah.
No, it's unfortunate because I had a similar experience, and also I won't name names, but just recently thinking where I guess I hoped more from some companies. I'm of that generation where I expect my brand to have a bit of ethics or a bit of motivation to do something different. And I understand that companies are not charities and they do report to shareholders or they do have to make profit. But I mean, um, even if we're just saying, and we don't want to restrict it to Muslim women, but even if we're just saying the population of Muslim women in the world and the growth in the next 20 to 30 years, the population, like, it doesn't make sense not to be serving such a significant portion of the population internationally. And North America is only one market. As you said, maybe they're carrying something in Australia, but why can't we have it in North America? Or why, they don't want to do something in Europe because it might antagonize a sensitive situation. And it's just unfortunate to me because there is such a need for this product. If we don't put any particular person or religion on it, there is need for these products, right? It's just so bizarre to me.
And that's why I want to do my very, very best to stay true who I am. Because I'm always like, I'm not attacking them, but I'm just sharing my opinions. I just want to stay true to myself by supporting like Muslim-owned brands or even Christian-based people of faith and what have you, because they understand us. Number one, they're creating product for us. So why should I go out of my way to a big brand to create a product that's actually existing? Like the product has been there more than 15 years. So when I spoke with Splash Gear in the webinar, if anyone wants to go back and watch it, she shared about it and she told me, like, privately, if it's okay to say, over 15 years ago, she approached like Nike and the big brands, and then she said, they were like afraid of us. Why couldn't they do it 15 years ago? Why all of a sudden now? But that's the norm, and that's how it is in Muslim communities. Culture, trends, we just want to follow the trend,
Well,
in my opinion.
no, I think
Yeah.
you're completely right, Ola. And I think it's no different from the conversation that we're having the last few years in general about size and body inclusivity, right? For many, many years, a lot of mainstream clothing brands, the biggest size they offered was maybe 12 or 14. And now, fully in the last 5 or 6 years, it seems like brands have fully expanded to 2X, 3X, 4X, 5X, and recognizing that, the average woman in America is not size 12 or less. And the same thing too with swimsuits. I mean, there are many companies that I used to shop at in Canada, stores that would carry the big brands, and I would be at the top of the size line in a 12, and that's just wrong, right? I work with many capable lifeguards, swim instructors, trainers. They are not that size. Where are they getting their swimsuits, right? They're having to purchase them from overseas or a specialty brand. They're paying extra prices for extra fabric or a premium product, and it just doesn't make sense given how big our industry is.
Yes, and that's where the whole body image movement has been popularized. If you know about it, I forgot her name. Tara or something. She created the movement, body image movements. And I took a stand about it as well, because like in my religion, like, God doesn't judge you by your look, but he judges you by your, what's inside. But then we also have to keep in mind that being oversized shouldn't be so popularized either, because it's not healthy. So there's like a debate on that too. Like, where's the line of being popularized, normalized, then like it's not also obesity is a health risk. Um, yeah, just as
Yeah.
COVID is dangerous, so is obesity.
Can you talk a little bit, Ola, about your Instagram, like the name Be Fit for Akira, and your podcast a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So Be Fit for Akhira was the name came about together in 2014. And the idea with losing my grandmother in Damascus, Syria, with like a spiritual awakening. So I've been stuck with that name for a while, and it's been a challenge because I've been told to change it. It's too scary, what have you. So Akhira means afterlife, and I'm inspired by the fact that we need to be accountable. Like our body will be accountable for us. It's not just like having a faith in God, because like faith in the afterlife is one of the pillars of faith. We have 6 pillars of faith, and there's a pillars of religion, right? So the faith itself, believing that hereafter is one of the pillars of faith, and then the pillars of Islam itself are 5. So that's where the name came together. So when I launched the podcast, since I've been through a lot with the name, Be Fit for Akhira, with the religious Muslims, like the ones who find what I'm posting to be wrong or what have you, So I said, okay, let me do it general. So I created the Purposeful Fitness because that was the whole intention, to help people find purpose through their fitness journey. And so it came down to Purposeful Fitness with Coach Ola.
I think that's so important because of most, well, I shouldn't speak for everyone. For myself, I had to find my motivation to work out, to be fit. Like you said, I have a long history in my family of heart disease and thinking ahead about, how I can extend my life. And not everybody has a reason, and they need to find a reason to help them with that motivation, whether it's for their kids, whether it's for their family, whether it's for being able to hike or lifestyle choices. I think that really helps people stay on that path.
Yes, but I do agree that it has made, like, it has been a mental struggle with the name as well. Like, it made me become either like too judgmental, or I've been judged by people because of the name and what I'm posting, what I'm doing, and so the whole like spectrum of like Muslims and levels of practice can impact. So yeah, it's important to remember that you're going to be accountable. And I think, to me, that's like my source of motivation sometimes, is that like every day of accountability, hold myself accountable, focus on myself. But it can become a bit of, I don't say this is the hard, but it becomes tempting to judge people, to judge myself. So I have to remind myself, like, this is focus on me. Ola, and the whole YOLO is another inspiration, because you know how it's normalized, and it's normalized among Muslims. It's like, no, we don't live once, we live twice. The YOLO.
Can you talk a little bit about what I love on your account is that there's so much variety, right? You're posting what you're doing, you're posting, like actual tips for how to work out a specific technique with a kettlebell, or nutrition or faith. How do you, like, what's your goal with the Instagram profile? Why are you posting?
That's a good question. It started in 2014, and my first product was launched in 2018. My first service, actually, and a product, the Ramadan program. So the intention is to hopefully be able to actually build a profitable business, but that hasn't been going very well, which is okay. So the goal of it is to inspire, to motivate, to educate, to empower, but to also be able to make a living, or survive financially as well. Because obviously now we have influencer marketing, which that wasn't my intention. I'm not a huge fan of it either, but I'm part of it. I'm part of this norm now.
Well, I think we're all a part of it at a certain point, in the sense that we either believe it or we don't. I know I've bought products that I've seen other people share, and maybe initially I was cynical, but if I actually like the product, if it brings me value, then there's no reason that they can't be compensated or they can't share products with me. And I think, yeah, sometimes I'm cynical, right? You think about a big fancy celebrity who's very clearly, been paid money to show a product. But then when you or someone else I trust, right, if they're talking about something, like if I had a client asking about modest swimsuits, I would come back to you, because I wouldn't, like you said, the bra piece is crazy to me. Why you would build a swimsuit without extra bra support. So I would come back to Ola and say, okay, what were the ones that met your needs? Because I don't want to send someone to buy a $100 swimsuit that might not meet their needs, right? Like, it's important that people who have used the products, like, they are the experts. You know which lines you like and which ones work and which don't.
Yes, I agree. So there's only goods and bads, and just how you look at it, and just to remind, like, the mental health aspect. Like, obviously we've seen like Simone Biles, the whole putting people on pedestal, putting people like on a spotlight, and it was brought to my attention a lot this year, or when I spoke with a Muslim-owned brand um, business owner. She said how like Instagram or social media like really brought the whole like nafs, the whole like person into it, which is a bit dangerous. And I agree with her because I've seen it happen to me, and I've seen it happen to other Muslims where like especially within the influencer world, it is toxic and not healthy. They're trying to drag each other down or not support each other, which is not Islamic, and it's really, really sad. It happened to me. A lot of like these nice, naive people, sensitive people, and it's just, yeah, you see it, you happen. That's not really like Islam. That's not being a good, like a real Muslim. So it impacted our faith big time. That's why I'm cynical about it, but also positive. So you have to like focus on the positive.
As you were saying, that, I was remembering, so I grew up in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, and it has a very large Lebanese Muslim refugee community. Just over the years, a lot of people love Ottawa. There is a pretty famous influencer in Ottawa. She used to be a hijabi. She took off her hijab maybe about a year ago, and oh my goodness, it was so sad just to watch, you know, what was a very personal, individual decision, right? That she didn't need to explain to the whole community, but something like 450,000 people and like 50,000 people left in a week. It was just so sad that, you know, she's still a woman of faith. She still is a Muslim, but it just was so unfortunate that something that is meant to be a fun hobby using social media became just a
Hmm.
terrible, terrible situation.
Yeah, and that happened to me last year with a friend of mine was in complete shock by Pearl Daisy. She's
Mhm.
very well known in the UK as well. When she took her hijab off, and I was like, I was in shock to be honest with you. But my friend was like, like she was literally like, sad and depressed.
Mhm.
So to me, that showed me her personality. It showed me like how she's putting people on her head, like herself on a pedestal. Like we're not friends anymore. So to me, it's like I'm also in like not on your pedestal. Like you know, because I feel like I was being controlled by that friend. Like I have to be a certain way to fit her standards, and I'm like that's not who I am. So I have to remind myself like to stick to my values, and it can become tempting. And I agree with you. It has divided us, the whole Muslim community, and it's becoming actually. I mean, it is a sad reality. It's becoming a bit like a trend of who's gonna be the next on taking their headscarf off, or, and it comes back to the person's decision. Like you know, who it's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can judge us, but it's a commitment, you know. So that's why I say in the very beginning, it's a personal choice. Like you have to make that choice, not someone force you into it, or yeah.
Well, and I think to circle back to what we were talking about at the beginning with hijabis or people wearing modest swimwear in pools, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do to go out and buy those pieces of clothing and to put together an outfit and go to the pool and probably know that you might get a lifeguard or a front desk person who's not as welcoming as they should be. And so I think, especially for us aquatic staff, we need to be thinking with some empathy before lunging and jumping down someone's throat and saying, "Why are you wearing that?" Because there's probably a lot of thought that went into it for their personal reasons.
So like when you ask me about what I've noticed in swimming world, I've also noticed in the dry land world, right, with the personal training, a lot of Muslim men are still not comfortable with the idea of doing squats in front of men, or like the whole idea of like doing certain exercises, bird dog, glute bridges, you know, it's like just not comfortable. And I was that person before. Like when I started wearing the headscarf myself, it was, you know, a bit challenging. Like, oh my gosh. Um, the more I tried to practice, the more, you know, it was in my head. So for me, or for all these people, it's just like find your comfort zone. That's why now it has become more easier than ever before. The whole online training, workouts at home, being outside. So it shouldn't be an excuse to stop you from working out,
I
or even
think
swim. Yeah, or even swimming.
No, I think you're right. And as we were saying before, there may be some facilities in your area or in anyone's area, maybe they have a private room or they have the ability to close the blinds, but that doesn't mean that every facility will have that. And so it's making modifications that are comfortable for you. I know at one pool I worked at, we had somebody who would always, like, we had mats on the ground where people could do some dry land, and they would just go in the corner and set one mat upright, and it was a little bit more private. Like, I had the lifeguard in a high chair, I could see them, but on the deck level they had a little bit more privacy, right? And there's no reason that people can't think about modifications, the time that they go, or like you said, doing it at home might be a little bit more appropriate for some people and their comfort level.
Yep, and that's why I go back to the whole mindset. It's all in your head.
So
Um,
I was going to
yeah.
say we're nearing the end of our Instagram time. So we've been talking with Ola about, you know, being a hijabi, wearing different modest swimwear in the pool. Any final thoughts on what we've been talking about, things you want to share?
The only thing I would share is just to be open-minded, to understand the difference between a culture and norm and the religion itself, and try to not mix all of it in the same pot. And to be, and that's something I'm working on. Before you jump to conclusion or before you comment on something, just step back a little bit, separate the person from um, like the comment or the caption, with the message that's being shared, and to also continue being educated about the whole swimwear, about the whole mindset and their background, what they're comfortable, being feared of water, anxiety, and to make it more welcoming, I guess. Yeah.
Where can everybody find you, Ola? What are your handles? What are your accounts? How can people reach you to learn more?
Sure, it's at BFit for Akhira. It can be in the replay if you have it, or in the handle right here, BFIT number 4, AKHIRA.
And website? Do you have a website?
I do. It's bfitsforakhira.com. It might be changed soon. And then the podcast is on iTunes and everywhere that you find Purposeful Fitness with Coach Ola.
Amazing. Yes. No, we'll definitely link your handle in the IGTV link, and I'm also going to reshare in our stories, and I'll see if I can eventually reshare it on our feed. The TikTok video that we referenced earlier, Ola commented on it a few weeks ago. I really appreciated it, and that's actually what led me to finally reach out and say I want to chat with her about this, which was the dangling scarf in the pool as not the safest option when it comes to modest swimwear. So thank you so much, Ola, for joining me. I think you're headed off to teach aqua fitness, yes?
Almost. I have to drop off goggles. I said goggles and then go teach.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and you stay safe.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.